Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Today I'm making a video about Zoroaster. Zoroaster, as we know him, as sometimes know him as Zarathustra, the ancient Persian spiritual leader. Was he actually a prophet of Allah? Some Muslim scholars say yes, some say maybe, others say no. In this video, I'll explain who was Zoroaster, what the Quran might hint about him, what the early Muslim scholars say, and how Zoroaster teaches compare with Islam. Let's dive in. Section 1. Zoroaster lives around the 1050,000 BC, according to most historians. He preached in ancient Persia, teaching one supreme God, Ahura Mazda, the struggle between good and evil, the judgment after death, heaven and hell, resurrection, and these ideas appear long before Judaism. Some people wonder if his teaching resembles Abrahamic beliefs. Was he sent by Allah? Might be, because these beliefs right here sound very similar. Like he teaching monotheism, he teaching heaven and hell, he teaching resurrection, he teaching judgment after death. Seems pretty good so far. But let's continue. Section 2. What does Islam say about him? Well, Islam only said in one Quran verse, it did talk about the Zoroastrians. Quran 22:17 lists the Magians among the Jews and Christians and Sabians. This is important because the Magians are not listed like the idol worshippers and the mushrikuns and polytheists. These are listed among religious communities like the Christians and Jews and Sabians. So that means they're different from the pagan religions. Because if they was like pagans who believe in a bunch of other gods, they would just be called polytheists, not their own type of unique name, the Magians. Muslim scholars who believe Zoroaster was a prophet. Some scholars, especially in the early Islamic Persia, argue Zoroaster was a prophet, but his scriptures been corrupted. This is understandable because we know that this is true because the Bible been corrupted. For example, the Torah that was given to Moses was corrupted over time. The Injil was given to Jesus was corrupted between time. So it's possible. Like the type of verses in the Bible was added in, type of verses were moving, type completely new things what never was in the Bible was just been added in those books. So it shows that we don't even have the original Bible. We just say it right there. We don't have the original Bible. It's been corrupted. It's been changed. So that means it must. So I can't really trust a book like that. So I assume the same must have happened to Zoroaster. But let's continue. Ibn al-Zil said the Magians originally followed a prophet. Al-Shahstani suggested the Zoroaster may have been a messenger sent to Persia. Ibn Hazm said though the Majuds had a prophet, his te- but altered his teachings. I assume that too. Al-Barim wrote respectfully about Zoroastrians and said the original message changed over time. The Quran teaches that many prophets were not named. We Quran 14:78. We have we have certainly sent messengers before you. Some of them we told you about, and some we did not tell you about. So this opened up the possibility that Zoroaster could be one of the unnamed prophets, and I agree. Zoroaster could have been one of the unnamed prophets. That's why I say he more like he might be a prophet, because the Quran literally mentioned it in this verse right here, where it say that they sent some prophets that they told us about. There's some prophets they did not tell us about. So it's how possibilities of Ashaka could be one of those prophets. And then some he might be a prophet of Allah. Monotheism. So I try to watch monotheism, Ahura Master. This matches Islamic belief in one God. This is very true. And we know that every prophet Allah sent always preach monotheism. They always teach about one God and rejecting idol worshiping. And come back to the teaching of one God. The day of judgment and resurrection. Zoroaster believe in the day, the judgment, heaven and hell, and resurrection. Core teachings of Islam. This is very true. Yeah, in Islam, we do teach about this. So it is a possibility that Zoroaster was probably a prophet because of this. Look at it. He teach about day of judgment, heaven and hell, and resurrections. Core beliefs in Islam. Islam teaches a battle between good and evil. Zoroaster also teaches moral struggle between truth and falsehood. Same as same as us. His scriptures was pure. The Gata, says Zoroaster, own words, express righteousness, prayer, and worship of the one God. Seems pretty true. Seems like he's a prophet of God so far. Zoroaster opposed all idolatry. According to Zoroastrian tradition, Zoroaster destroy idol. He preached that worship should be directed only to the one invisible supreme God, Ahura's master, and he condemned the old Persian gods and the polytheist rituals at his time. This is very similar to the message of prophet like Prophet Abraham, uh, who destroyed idols, Prophet Musa, who confronted idol worship, Prophet Muhammad, who fought against idol idolatry of the Quraysh. So Ashtra was a radical call to worship only to one God, reject physical idols, practice righteously and truthfully. This is one of the strongest reasons why early Muslim scholars argued he was likely a general prophet. Teachings will later change. Right. Section 4. Now, time for the people who are against it and say he probably was not a prophet at all. Now you're going their side because I do have some people who believe this. Evidence against him being a prophet, according to some scholars. Later, Zoroastrian beliefs changed. Over centuries later, Zoroastrians developed fire worship, veneration of fire, intimates of holy beings like Amnesia Splendid. Some Muslims argues this conflict with Islamic Tawheed. No mention of him in the Quran or Hadith, while the Quran mentioned Majuri and never mentioned Zoroastrian by name. Disagreement among classical scholars. Some scholars believe Zoroastrians follow a prophet, others believe they were simply wise, but not a prophetical religious group. Section 5. Compared to other religions, Islam acknowledges that Allah sent prophets to every nation. Quran 60:36, we certainly send a message to every nation. So the ancient Persians should not be exclusive. This should have strengthened the possibility that Zoroaster could have been one of those messengers. Section 6, the verdict. So was Zoroaster a prophet of Allah? Now this is up to you to decide. But if you're asking me, personally, with all the evidence I looked through, I think he was a prophet. Because I just seen like he destroyed idols. He promoted the worship of one God. He talked about day of judgment. He talked about hell, heaven, and hell. Like, to me, it just seemed like he was one of the unnamed prophets that the Quran talk about. Because how many prophets wasn't a name. You even have prophets in the Bible, in the Old Testament and thing, wasn't even named in the Quran. And I believe they were prophets of Allah too. They just not named in the Quran. So I think Zoroaster also was a prophet. But the other religions, like Christianity and Judaism, they don't believe he was a prophet. They believe he was actually a false prophet. Well, the Jews actually were more friendly to him. They believe he was kind of like a prophet, like, but when he was sent to them. But the Jews also believe that with Prophet Muhammad, they can't believe he was a prophet when he was sent to the Ishmaelites. Like I said, the Jews is like like I said, it was an ethnic-based religion, so they just believe they're the only ones that God chosen and all kind of thing. But the Christians, they believe anyone who's not mentioned in their books is a false prophet. So since they believe Zoroaster was not mentioned, they believe he was a false prophet. I believe he misguided people. You know how the Christians insult Prophet Muhammad and call him all kind of thing. Basically, they do the same thing with Zoroaster. It doesn't help that the Persian Empire at the time was the greatest enemies of the Byzantiums and all that. So that just strengthened the insult to Zoroaster. And it's kind of funny because the Zoroastrians never insulted Jesus. Or at least I couldn't find any evidence of Zoroastrians insulting Jesus. But yep, the Christians was real insulting Zoroastrians. When even reading it, I go like, even I get mad for just hearing the insults that Christians say about Zoroastrians. Like Saint Augustus and all them. All these saints, the earliest saints of Christianity was insulting him badly. But hey, I just know that just coming because even though I don't even want to go on all about Christianity. I just how you say that because I just want to show what we view in it. So Islam, personally, I believe he was a prophet. and it's up to you to decide if he was a prophet or not. But if he doesn't even believe he was a prophet, yeah, at least admit he was a wise man though, and he probably wasn't inspired by the devil or the demons or whatever, like what the Christians just say. Well, later, and that was my video, and I hope you enjoy it.